Hey everyone, Prophet here. Welcome back to the channel. Yes, I am on my 4K webcam. I have a Logitech Brio, and tonight we're going to be covering both the bullshit webcam that Phil currently has, which is more than likely a C930S, which is the upgrade for the C920S that Phil had previously. We're going to combine that with the issues that arose this morning on the level 1 Goutcast that Phil was doing with the issues with his monitor, his USB ports dying, problems connecting his devices through the hub. We're going to look at all of that. This is going to be a very technical video. If you just want to, peace out and just listen to it in the background, great. We're going to have some stuff up here on the screen, though, that we're going to look at. We're going to look at Phil's case. We're going to look at why I highly doubt the front panel USB ever worked, because we actually have a video here when Phil was doing the unboxing that shows the front panel USB 3.0 ports are not actually plugged in. So those never worked from day one because CyberPower never plugged them in properly. Right, so we'll look at that. We're going to look at his motherboard. We're going to look at the USB mismatch problems that he's probably occurred and why Phil should probably update his BIOS to fix the compatibility issues. We're going to go into chipset information on the X79 chipset that Phil currently has for his motherboard, and we're going to go over why he overpaid for the $3,000 CyberPower PC. Now, we'll take a look here first at the level 1 Goutcast that happened this morning. Listen to it for a bit just to get the lowdown on what happened, and then we'll jump into the technical stuff. So here we go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Level 1 podcast, where we're busy having fun down here on why is the camera like this. We're having technical difficulties today. As you can tell, the camera is incredibly bad, and I have to figure out why. If you're wondering what's going on, so my computer crashed this morning, okay? Which is not good. It's not good that a computer would crash. It went blue screen on me, okay? And when it went blue screen on me, basically a bunch of stuff stopped working, including the USB ports on the front of my computer on its case. So I had several different USB ports sitting on the front of the case of the PC that are built into the case itself. And those I was using for my wireless mouse and my wireless keyboard to do stuff on the PC. They just went, died, okay? So I moved those adapters over to my USB hub, but now I think what's happening is it's draining too much power out of the hub, which is making this camera run in a worse mode. So what I can try to do right now, which I don't know if it'll work on the fly, is try to unplug stuff from the hub. Let's take a look here. Let's see if this fixes anything. How can I do this? Let me think. Hold on. I need a flashlight. I think I have a free USB port anyway that I don't need, but I needed to find it, so I had to get a flashlight to go find it. Yeah, see, this I don't even need plugged in. This one right here. This doesn't even need to be plugged in. That's a completely free USB port. Okay. So now, we unplug this. Okay, that's going to freeze it. We plug that in here. Oh, of course, now it doesn't reach. Oh my god, it doesn't fucking reach. Well. Oh my god. It won't reach. God damn it. Hold on. So my problem is that it won't reach. I need to get a USB extension cable, which I know I have, because if you remember, when we were cleaning out my closet, we found some of them, but now I have to find them, because they're in the closet. So hold on a second here. I might have to restart the whole setup, by the way. We'll have to see. Technical difficulties. Don't you love it? So now, where the hell did I put those cables? Here it is. This is it right here. Yeah. Okay. This is definitely one of them. I have more than this, though. Might as well keep this one. Alright. So I'm opening my USB extension cable here. Hopefully this works. Pretty sure I don't need 16 feet, but that's how big this one is. A 16-foot USB extension cable, good lord. Okay. So now let's try this.
Look at this right here. Look at this. Look at this dent. If we can't see Phil, how can he see us? Really? Really? You think Phil can see you? Fuck me. Like, oh my god.
There. Plugged in. Alright. So, the camera is plugged in. The problem is now the camera failed when I was streaming. So I'm wondering, how do I get the camera to refresh? And it may simply be I have to restart OBS. Let's see here. Webcam, properties. Yeah, it's got it selected. Is there a refresh button or something for it? No. There's like no refresh for the camera. So, I guess I have to try to restart OBS entirely to see if I can get this to work. It should technically, because now it's plugged in.
Or all Phil had to do was delete the web camera source, recreate the web camera source. Done.
To the USB port that was already working fine. And it's actually its own USB port, which honestly, this webcam probably should have its own USB port regardless. Since it is streaming video, it's probably the highest amount of data use out of anything plugged into that hub. So I
see, and that's what I mean about misinformation. Okay? Now, a webcam, like, Phil isn't doing 1080p 60, okay? The web camera isn't capable of doing 1080p 60, okay? We can actually look at that right here. So the C930S is only 1080p 30, okay? Same as the 920. Even if Phil had the 922, it's only 30 FPS at 1080p. If he wants 60, he has to do 720p. It's just what it is, okay? Now, this camera isn't very good. Okay, this is more of your entry-level business webcam, like it says here. It's not, like, yeah, you can use it for streaming, but it's just not a very good quality of camera, all right? Now, all Phil actually had to do was open up his properties for his webcam, set the frames per second. We can actually show that here. Let's bring up OBS. Okay, there's the webcam here, top left. All we have to do is go into properties for the web camera. Okay, and I have everything custom set here. Okay, I've got 4K, 30, right? If I wanted to do 1080p, I could drop it down to 1080p, and I can change the FPS to 60. right? It's that simple. That's all Phil had to do to fix the problem. He didn't have to go through and change everything and swap cables and shit like that. That was a complete fucking waste of time, right? And that's how easy it is to set up your webcam within OBS. Let's get back to the video.
I guess we're going to do that. If you're live on stream, it will not affect you. But this is an on-demand video. It's going to be different. So I'm just going to stop recording. We're going to see if we can get this to work. Okay, hold on. I stopped recording. What I'm going to do is turn off OBS, reopen it, and see if this works.
And it's going to kill your live stream. Here we go.
All right, so give me a second. I'm going to stop the stream, restart OBS, and hopefully it's working. All right.
Fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward.
Let's try this.
Full. Is that how you say it? Or is it deaful?
I'm not listening to this shit.
I didn't fun down.
Okay, here we go.
What is going on, everyone? Let's try this again. Phil here, and welcome to Level 1 Podcast. We're busy having fun down here on Level 1. And, you know, apologies. We had technical difficulties this morning, which obviously I did not intend on having. It happens sometimes, which sucks. Obviously, you don't want technical difficulties, but when they creep up, you got to deal with them as best you can, right? So we got a lot to talk about on today's podcast. Today is Monday, the 7th of November, 2022.
You see the focus went out there because he has autofocus enabled.
We got to talk about what's going on with my short schedule YouTube shorts and what you guys think of them, because I want honest feedback if I should keep doing them or not.
And play with your pedo stash.
Reviews for Sonic Frontiers are out. The game comes out tomorrow. I'm playing it. And obviously I'm very excited to check it out. And the reviews are very mixed. I'd like to talk about those. We got a lot of crap going on Twitter right now with censorship and a lot of people jumping on a bandwagon. So I'd like to talk about that today. We got a lot of topics to discuss. All right. But before we get to all those topics, let's talk about what just happened. More technical difficulties. As if I haven't had enough recently with my car breaking down, my TV dying. This morning, you know, my PC, everything's up and running. And all of a sudden, I go to turn on my second monitor, because I have two monitors. All right. Primarily the reason I have two monitors is because I used to do like a video editing and stuff, you know, years ago on other channels on YouTube like KO Gaming. I haven't done that in a long time. Do I absolutely need two monitors? No. Is it useful? Absolutely. Yes, it is. For the kind of work that I do still.
Or you can just get an ultra wide like me.
So the monitor turned on really slow, then turned off. And I had to cycle through the video feeds to get it to turn on again. I'm like, what is going on here? Is the monitor dying? Then all of a sudden, boom, blue screen of death. My computer says, oh, it has to restart. Let's just compile an error message and then restart. I was like, that's not.
Now, what I would like to know here is, what did the error message say? Did it say IRQ not less or equal to? Did it say page fault non-paged area? Did it say GPU driver has stopped responding? Right? Now, Phil would have been more specific with the issue. It could have been narrowed down. If it's IRQ not less or equal to, or display driver has stopped responding, it's typically a driver problem. If it's page fault non-page area, it's a memory issue, right? So when your system blue screens, make sure you write down what the error message states. If it didn't state an error message and it just blue screen and said it needs to restart, now this is again what tells me Phil's on Windows 10 and not on Windows 8 anymore, because on Windows 8 it would give you a error code. On Windows 10, unless you have it enabled, it'll just say, we've run into a problem, PC needs to restart, and then it will restart after a few seconds. Now, if you don't get the error code, you can download a program that's called What Crashed, right? And then that'll just check the memory, or the error dump, the memory dump of the error, and it'll tell you what exactly crashed. Was it the graphics driver? Was it a chipset issue? Was it a kernel mode exception, etc., etc.? Now, from the sounds of what happened, to me, it sounds like there's a power issue, right? For whatever reason, Phil's second monitor wasn't turned on. Very strange. Phil always has everything turned on in the office, right? So that monitor shut off for some reason, like completely powered down. Now, Phil is plugged into a UPS, so that shouldn't really matter. But for some reason it shut off. That there tells me a power issue. Now when Phil turned it on, he had to cycle through. It was booting up. The screen was turning on very slowly. Now there are fixes for that. On your monitor, you'll have your power button, right? Mine's right here at the bottom right. What you need to do is just discharge capacitors. And what that means is unplug the power, unplug your DisplayPort, HDMI, DVI, VGA cable, anything else in the monitor so it's just sitting by itself. Hold the power button in for 1 minute. When you're done, plug everything back in. I recently had an issue at the shop with one of the monitors that just kept flickering on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. Doing that fixed the problem. Wasn't an issue. It's worked fine since. Phil probably should do that with both his desktop, because same thing, discharge capacitors on the desktop, as well as the monitor. Now what Phil really should do is just gut the system. You can see here, this was pointed out this morning on KingJad stream. You see this right here? Like Phil's shirt is dirty. That's dust from the computer. Guaranteed. When he was trying to fiddle around, he got dust on his shirt. And somebody had pointed that out on KingJad's stream. Shout out KingJad on his 720p monitor. So that just tells you the state at which the office is in. And we've seen the state of which the office has been in, right? The place is a pigsty. It's a dump, right? Nothing's set up correctly. Everything's just garbage, you know, etc., etc. So what we'll do here, just continue watching to see what Phil goes on about.
Not good. That hasn't happened to me in years. I can't remember the last time I got a blue screen. So I restarted the computer and, you know, boots up to the Windows screen where you got to log in and everything, and nothing works. My mouse won't move. It's not even like showing powered. My keyboard does nothing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know that it's not the whole PC not working because obviously the monitor's on.
Now, if the mouse doesn't show powered and it's a wireless mouse, that's technically impossible, because the wireless mouse would be battery powered and the light would be on regardless, depending on if he has like an RGB built into the mouse or if it's just like an optical laser. You will see the light. It not being powered on tells me there's something else is the problem, not the USB port.
You know, some things are working here. So I'm thinking, where are these peripherals plugged in? Well, on my PC case, there are what they consider shortcut USBs on the front.
That's not a thing.
4 of them.
Okay? There's no such thing as a shortcut USB. It's front panel USB and front panel audio. Okay? There's no such thing as shortcut USB, Phil.
And then there's actually a headphone jack and a microphone jack, you know, the old stereo cable type, on the front of my PC case. Now, years ago, I used those for various different things. I haven't used those in a long time when it comes to the audio jacks. But I remember a year or two ago, for some reason, I had to do something on my PC. I can't remember what it was. And I tried to plug headphones in, and it don't work anymore. Those headphone jacks died for some reason. They just don't work. So
that's because they're not plugged in.
What it seems like now has happened is this morning, my USB ports on the front have fried. They don't work anymore, because that's where my mouse and my keyboard was plugged in. And so I unplugged them, plugged them into other USB things that I have, and they worked easily, no problems. Okay? So obviously that was the problem. The USBs must have died after many, many, many years of use.
No.
Keep in mind this computer is over 8 years old. So not shocking that these kind of things are going to start to happen over time, quite frankly.
Technically, the computer's 11 years old, but whatever.
I think it's something that commonly will happen over time. You know, when it comes to a PC that's used daily, like mine. And the fact that the headphone jack had already broken, probably, you know, makes sense that USBs were going to go too. So here's the thing. On my PC, I have many USB ports. I probably have like 6 in the back. And I actually have a USB hub.
You have more
I've
than that,
used
Phil.
for various things over the years. Because, you know, I have a lot of peripherals. Just think about what's plugged into my computer right now. This microphone is plugged into this receiver unit, which is a USB port. This camera is a USB. My wireless keyboard, my wireless mouse.
Okay, so his mouse being plugged into the receiver unit, that is the USB amp / DAC. Now, the strange thing is that he's not using an XLR microphone. He's just using some piece of shit HyperX. Okay, now I'll get into that in another video with the USB amp and DAC, and it's unclear why Phil has it. Like, he was looking for an extension cable. The only reason I can think he has it is because his microphone wouldn't reach the computer. Okay, now we'll get into it shortly about USB mismatch problems. We'll take a look at BIOS releases for Phil's motherboard, and I'll explain USB mismatch as it pertains and how it works for Phil.
My printer, all right, and my capture device. So that's 6 right there. Now, other times I've had other things like an external hard drive and things like that plugged in as well. So basically, at any given time, this thing has like 7, 8 USB ports being used, and that's why I needed the hub to kind of plug a few of the lower energy use things into that, so that I'm not overdoing it or, you know, using all the plugs. So basically, I've had no problems with this thing for a long time in regards to the ports or anything. This is the first time I've had a problem in many years. So all I did is I unplugged the keyboard and mouse from those front USB things on the case that apparently don't work anymore. I plugged them into the hub. Boom, it works fine. All right. Good. So, cool. Let's get the stream started. So I get the stream started. All of a sudden, my webcam is choppy as hell. Now, this is my fault because I forgot that when I got this webcam a little over a month ago, and shout out to the fan who donated it, because, man, has there been an improvement in visual quality since I got this new webcam, right? I mean, people really appreciate that. I forgot that this webcam has an auto feature called low light adjustment, which is stupid because what it is, it's software based, and it completely destroys the frame rate of the camera.
No, it doesn't.
Right now, you're seeing, you know, a smooth 30 frames. The camera, by the way, is supposed to be 60 frames, and it's not. Same thing with my old Logitech camera. For some reason, they only run at 30, even though they promise 60. I don't understand.
Phil, here, let me let you in on a secret. The camera's 1080p 30. Right here, Phil. Take a look. It's 1080p 30. 720p 60. So you would have to change it to 720p, and then you get 60 frames per second. Wow, what a fucking shocker.
Understand that? I have it set for 60, but it doesn't work at all. Like, I have it set 60 frames. Where is it? Yeah, highest FPS possible setting, and it only runs at 30.
That's not 60 frames per second, Phil. Okay, let's look at this, okay? Let's just look at this fucking shit, okay? Oh, my God. Okay, so let's open up the camera properties. Okay, like I've done before, right? Now, if I wanted to do 1080p 60, right? I set 1080p, 60 frames per second. Don't set highest FPS. Highest FPS just means 60 frames per second for this resolution. Now, I am not using 1080p 60. I'm using 4K 30. Highest FPS would be 30 frames per second. That's why Phil did not read it out. Okay? Phil didn't read it out because when he had it set to 1080p 60, only 30 frames per second came up, because that is the max that the C930 can support. Okay? Same as the 922, if Phil had the 922 either, right? I have the 4K Brio. So that means that the 4K Brio can do 4K 30, 1080p 60, right? The 4K Brio is supposed to be like the best webcam out there. I like it. I think it's good. I still have some settings to tweak. Right now I'm in 90-degree viewing angle, so you can see Titan over here, right? You can see part of my desk and everything. You can change between 45, 65, and 90 for the viewing angles. Now, let's look at the settings. Now, we all know that Phil, like the color changes and everything, right? The white balance changes. That's because Phil has every auto feature enabled. Wrong. Disable those auto features. That's the first step that you should do within the software. Now, I'm using the OBS software. I also have the Logitech software installed as well. That will bring up settings for the camera, right? Like if I click on Brio, you have all these settings, right? You can disable those features instantly, right? Disable your white balance, disable your autofocus, disable your exposure, because that's all going to cause issues with skin tone as the lighting changes, right? If you want it to stay one setting, disable all the auto features, configure everything manually. So let's take a look at that. We have this right here. So I've disabled white balance and I've adjusted it accordingly. I have bumped up my gain. Under this, I have autofocus disabled and I focused in manually. I've got exposure disabled and set manually. So, and I've got low light compensation disabled. Now, all low light compensation is if there's low light, it will brighten the image up. It'll try to brighten the image up using the hardware encoding based into the camera. At no point does it require software cycles to run. You can see that down here. My CPU is only using 1% currently as I'm recording, right? Now, basically what Phil's doing is Phil is lying, right? Phil has no idea how to set up the camera. He doesn't have the correct software installed. He's just plugged it in and away he went. He doesn't know how to operate the webcam. Period. Right? If he did, he would disable all the auto features. Auto focus, auto exposure, auto white balance. Disable that shit. Configure your settings manually based on the lighting in your room. I am sitting in my home theater right now, so it's kind of darker than usual. That's why my image is a little bit dark, right? Now, if I had like a ring light, which would be basically sitting here, putting light down on me, and the image would be brighter. That's something that Phil can invest in. Instead, Phil wants like $1,500 studio lighting all over the place, which is just going to create heat, use up more power, etc., etc. Complete waste of money, right? And that's what he's doing with this video right now. He's just basically, he's sneak begging and guilt tripping the dents into buying him a new PC, which he doesn't need because he doesn't take care of anything. He doesn't have anything set up correctly. And then he runs into problems. So let's continue watching this video here. Just want to get rid of this. Here we go.
I don't know. But anyway, so it automatically started using this low-level balance adjustment software feature, which I didn't realize. So I started doing the show, and it looked choppy as shit, and everyone's like, oh, shit, this isn't working. And I thought, oh, maybe it's because my camera now is being shared on that USB hub with other things. Maybe I should plug it directly into the back of my PC. But then the wire wouldn't reach, so I had to dig into my closet and pull out a USB extension cable. And so basically, the stream's like 15, 20 minutes late. By now, we would have been a good tear into the show, and I ended up starting really late. And what can you do? It's technical difficulties, right? The good news is it wasn't anything serious. I don't care about the few USB ports on the front of my PC case not working. I don't need them. And quite frankly, when a PC starts to have things go wrong, it's usually those little bell whistle extensions on the front of a case that go first. I know from experience when I used to build PCs.
Bullshit.
You know, on some of those PCs, some of the things right in the front of the case wouldn't work within a few months. Like, what happened? They're just, you know, not great made stuff. You know, the stuff on the back of the PC,
Phil built it.
that's durable and supposed to last a long time. The stuff on the front of the PC is junk, really. Okay.
I haven't had any problems with mine.
So anyway, sorry for the late start. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's hope there's no more today. I did test, you know, the game video.
Yeah, I don't care, Phil. Okay, so let's look into Phil's setup, shall we? Now, we know for a fact, here's the CyberPower PC unbox. Now, of course, the quality isn't great, but you can see here. So, Phil's got a BTX form factor, and this was popular back in like 2014, 2015. Basically, what they did is instead of the computer sitting upright like this, the motherboard was actually sitting upside down. So, right here is where you would see your USB 3, and we actually have a diagram that we can bring up. Right here of Phil's motherboard. Now, Phil uses a Sabertooth X79, and I'll get into this a little bit later as to why Phil really fucked up when he purchased it. So here is the USB front header. This is for the USB 3. Now, if you look at Phil's case, this is the ASA GT1 that Phil has. Phil has two USB 3.0 ports, two USB 2.0 ports, and then your front panel audio. Okay, so Phil actually has four USB ports in the front of his case. Now, by looking at this picture here, there is no USB 3.0 front header plugged in. There's nothing here. Okay, let's just see. Okay, so we have the bottom of the case here. We can bring up the front panel. So his USB ports are right here. So that's USB for, you could use either of these right here. This one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Now, this is just for front panel USB or extra USB ports that would be plugged in on a header, okay? Now, again, if we look back at this picture, it looks like he has his COM1 plugged in, which, or his HD audio. That's not his HD audio. Get your gouty fucking hand out of the way there, Phil. So it doesn't look like his USB front panel is plugged in at all. Okay, so even the USB 2.0, we can see it. 1, 2, 3 are not plugged in. We can go back to the PDF, so we see that. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not plugged in. His HD audio is plugged in, but his USB front panel is not plugged in at all. He has his panel plugged in for his power button, reset button, hard drive lights, power light, etc. That is plugged in. We can see that in the video here. So that is plugged in, but nothing else is plugged in on his motherboard. So Phil stating that he has his keyboard and mouse plugged in there, I call bullshit on that right away, because judging by the picture of the CyberPower PC, it was never plugged in the first place. So that's why none of the ports worked, ever. Period. We can prove this just by the video. His USB 3 header isn't plugged in on the side of the motherboard. His ports on the bottom for his USB front panel headers are not plugged in either. Debunked, right? Really quick and easy. Now, let's get rid of these. So let's look at Phil's motherboard. Now, when I talk about USB mismatch, back in the day, there used to be a lot of issues that pertain to USB, especially if the motherboard didn't natively support USB 3.0, which the X79 does not. It only supports USB 2.0 natively through the processor and the chipset. Now, that doesn't say that motherboard manufacturers like Asus, Gigabyte, MSI, ASRock, whoever else, won't use a third-party chipset to support USB 3. The problem is when you start using stuff like Broadcom, Marvell, and Asmedia, there's compatibility problems. And with those extra chipsets, causes latency within the system, right? So you don't get the full benefit of the speed and the power capability that you would with a natively supported USB platform, right? Now, Phil bought this computer at the wrong time. Remember, he's on a Ivy Bridge E setup, which is an Intel HEDT setup, 4930K now, or 4960K, I should say. Now, that's a 6-core, 12-threaded processor. Natively, it does not support USB 3. So you would have to use, on Phil's case, has Asmedia built into his motherboard for USB 3, which is pretty poor. Now, when you look back at, these are the BIOS updates that are available for Phil's motherboard, you can see right away that there were issues that pertain to USB. So enhanced compatibility with some USB devices, right? Enhanced compatibility with some USB devices, right? And because this goes all the way back to 2011 when the motherboard and the chipset first came out. Remember, Phil bought this in 2014. At that time, Haswell E was available. You had the 5000 series processors in HEDT that were available that supported native PCIe 3, USB 3, etc., etc. He had a lot better support. I remember Phil paid $3,000 for a PC at the time that was already 4 years old. For the same amount of money, he could have built himself a Haswell E-based system, which was practically brand new at the time, and it would have been far more supported than what he currently has. So we can see this over time that there's been USB issues, right? And this goes all the way up to, here's 2012 again, USB issues. Again, 2013 USB issues. Keep on going. Again, USB issues. So there were known USB problems within the system as it started. Now, we know for a fact, let's just bring it up here, the IO shield. Actually, I can bring up this. So this is the back panel IO for Phil's motherboard. This is the Asus Sabertooth X79 chipset, okay? Or motherboard, I should say. Now, the blue ports in the back, those are your USB 3.0 ports. Those are run by the Asmedia controller. Also, the USB front panel 3.0 ports are run by the Asmedia controller as well. Then you have the black USB ports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have a white one, 6. These are all USB 2.0 ports that are natively supported by the processor, by the chipset. The white port is used for USB flashback, but it can also be used as just a regular USB 2.0 port. He's got his eSATA, he's got his eSATA powered, he's got his 1394 FireWire, he's got his optical, audio, and his gigabit LAN. Now, like Phil said, he's got like what, 4 ports on the back of his motherboard? Well, no, he's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then he has the front panel, which is another 4. So it's 14 USB ports total. Now, using a USB hub, I would hope the USB hub that Phil has is 3.0 compliant. I don't think it is, from the problems he's run into. And again, if it is USB 3.0 compliant, I hope to God he has it plugged into one of the blue ports so he gets that full speed USB 3.0, right? Otherwise, he's really going to gimp the camera, the USB DAC and amp that he has plugged in, because that does need bandwidth. USB 2.0 is fine for the bandwidth for a camera and for a USB amp / DAC. Like, for a hub, I use hubs from Vantech. Okay, I've got a 7-port hub here. This is what I use for my streaming setup. I will have my capture card and everything will be plugged in. Right, this is my capture card, the EVGA XR1 Pro. That takes up 2 ports. I've got my mic, my mouse, and my headset. Now, to this day, like when I bought my Sound Blaster X5 Theater, this thing has this little dongle, okay, right here. This thing is a piece of shit. This headset, this thing here, is garbage, right? If I plug it in, it wants you to use a USB 3.0 port. If you plug it into a USB 3.1 or 3.2, the power draw from the USB 3.1, 3.2 causes issues that I have to reload the firmware on it. This is the 3rd dongle that I've had for this headset, and no matter what I do, if I walk more than 2 feet away from my computer, it loses connection. It's supposed to be good up to 50 feet. I've had the whole entire unit replaced, right? And those are USB compatibility problems that you can run into. Now, with Phil's system, definitely he's having USB mismatch problems. When he bought the motherboard, when he bought the PC, he got scammed by CyberPower. Real easily, he got scammed by CyberPower. Meaning that they were getting rid of old stock, right? Now, depending on when that system was first made, who knows what bias is on that motherboard, right? Phil really needs to update the bias on that motherboard. He needs to update drivers within the system. He needs to do a clean install of Windows and just completely wipe it out and get it back up and running. Now, right here is the picture of the X79 chipset block diagram. You can see there's no native support for USB 3, right? It's only got native support for USB 2.0. So he's screwed at this point, right? Natively, the chipset itself only supports PCI Express 2.0 at 8x. Phil's fucked, because that means that his GPU is now going to run, instead of running at 3.0, which is 780 Ti supports, it's now running at 2.0. And like I said, when this system was first made, Phil should have had Haswell. He should have purchased a Haswell based system, and he didn't. Even still, like the memory support that's on this system. Phil's got the lowest end DDR3 possible. He could have got DDR4 on Haswell and would have been a lot better performance than the DDR3. So Phil really got screwed when he purchased this system. Personally, I don't think there's anything hardware-wise wrong with his setup. More than likely, it's just discharge the caps, clean the fuck out of that PC, because God, Phil, you had all that dust all over you from moving the monitor, moving the computer out, plugging stuff in. That just shows how much you care about your stream setup. Look at my stream setup. It's nice and clean, right? Don't have cables everywhere. I've got my awesome boom arm for my microphone and everything, right? I've got my webcam in front of me. It's the perfect setup, right? You look at Phil's setup, it's just trash. It's dirty, it's old. He hasn't maintained any of it. The system itself is just poorly set up, right? But that's the way Phil is, right? Phil doesn't want to have to work for anything, right? Phil just wants to plug everything in and away he goes. He doesn't give a fuck about how his system is set up, how it looks. It's just that, how quickly can you get online, beg for money, right? So remember, when you set up your system, if you're going to be using a USB hub, like on mine, I have red ports. Now my red ports are USB 3.2, right? And I've got 2 at the top. I only use one. It plugs into my 13-port USB hub. Now, this USB hub, this is powered, okay? And this supports up to, I think, about 100 watts per port, depending if something's plugged in. Now, that's a little bit overkill for a lot of devices. Like a webcam's not going to use that much. A USB amp / DAC will probably actually, if you buy a good one, like one of those ones from Shit Audio, like I spoke about earlier, or in the prior video, those ones have their own power, right? Now, for what Phil's using, he's got his webcam, he's got his keyboard, his mouse. I don't know why he has his printer attached to that. His printer can be wireless on his network. Like, why would you plug it in when you can be wireless? Or why not just use your notebook to print from and then disable the print spooler to save on resources, right? Like that. He honestly doesn't know what he's doing. But the amount of devices that Phil has plugged in, it's not a lot, right? Like his, what is it? That shitty Astro 40 thing that he has, that's plugged into his PlayStation, right? So that doesn't take any power from his PC. So he has the USB hub plugged in. He's got his keyboard, his mouse. He's got his USB amp DAC plugged in for his microphone, and he's got his web camera. And then he's got his AverMedia piece of shit capture device, right? And we'll get into that when I do the TV coverage of the X90J versus his old TCL Series 4 and how he royally fucked that up. So Phil's issues today were his own creation. He's just had it so poorly set up over time that it finally caught up with him. Now, we look at the fact that Phil's TV died, his monitor has issues, his USB ports aren't working. That's all pointing towards a power issue, right? And we've seen how he has everything plugged in. Like the circuits are overloaded in that room. Guaranteed. The breaker, I'm surprised the breaker hasn't popped, really, right? So Phil really needs to gut that room and plug everything in correctly. Like, just clean that room out. Take the PC to the mechanics, get them to use the air compressor on it, blow that thing out, clean it right out, because that thing has no air filters, right? That case is a piece of shit. That AZA GT1, that thing's a piece of garbage after looking at the reviews. Like, Tom's Hardware gave it like 0 out of 5 stars. So Phil's got a lot of work ahead that he really needs to do. Phil's only solution is fucking throw it away, buy a new one, right? Or beg for a new one, right? And that's all this video was. That's all the beginning of the Goatcast was just a sneak beg to try to guilt trip the Dents into giving him money for a PC, or for somebody to finance a PC for him, right? So I hope this offers a lot of explanation as to what happened. Hope it gives you guys some help with your own setups if you're having issues with USB devices. Again, make sure you're up to date on your BIOS. Make sure that you've plugged into the correct ports, right? Remember, black is USB 2, blue USB 3, 3.1, red USB 3.2. It's very easy to understand. So I hope this helps everybody out. I hope this helps the Dents to not give Phil any money because he set up his system completely fucking wrong. And we will see you guys in the next one.